In 1966, deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, a Dutch scientist stumbled onto something that shouldn't exist. The soil beneath his boots wasn't the dead, red clay everyone expected, it was jet black. Rich. Moist. Overflowing with life. This wasn't a freak patch. It stretched 6 feet deep, and it had been feeding crops for 2,000 years, without a drop of fertilizer. That discovery should have changed everything. It should have shattered the entire foundation of modern agriculture. Because what this scientist found wasn't just fertile soil, it was proof that we don't need to poison our land year after year just to grow food. But instead of headlines, it was silence. Instead of revolution, there was a cover-up. Because this ancient technique, created by indigenous hands thousands of years ago, posed a direct threat to a $27 billion industry. One that depends on keeping farmers, and all of us, dependent. So the knowledge was buried. Quietly. Strategically. Not by chance, but by design. But what exactly was this black earth? Who created it, and how did it stay hidden for so long? The answers will shake everything you thought you knew about soil, farming, and control. The Amazon may look like a paradise from above, lush, green, and teeming with life. But looks can deceive. Beneath that vibrant canopy lies one of the most infertile soils on Earth. Toxic red clay that chokes roots, leaches nutrients, and collapses after just 2 harvests. Farmers call it dead dirt, because once you clear the trees, you strip away the only thing keeping the ecosystem alive. The forest is the fertility. Without it, the soil is nothing. And that's where the mystery begins. Because scattered across this barren land are patches of impossibility, coal-black earth that defies every rule. Soil so rich, so alive, that it has been feeding people continuously for centuries, even where modern farms fail in a single season. These patches aren't small anomalies. They cover over 150,000 square kilometers, deeper and darker than any soil around them. In some places, the black earth runs more than 6 feet deep. Tests show it contains 3 times the organic matter, 70 times the charcoal, and 18 times the carbon of surrounding soils. And more importantly, it regenerates itself. This wasn't just healthy dirt, it was a biological miracle. One that shouldn't exist in the Amazon. And yet, it does. But the real question isn't how this soil exists. It's who created it, and why no one wanted you to know. Long before European ships touched South American shores, the Amazon wasn't just untamed jungle. It was alive with cities. Not villages. Not scattered tribes. But vast, organized civilizations, millions of people connected by trade routes, agriculture, and knowledge we still struggle to understand. By the 1500s, there were an estimated 6 to 10 million people living in the Amazon basin. They cultivated the land, engineered systems, and fed their populations, in soil modern science says should be worthless. It was a geological paradox. How did they survive for thousands of years in dirt that can't even handle 2 modern harvests? The answer was buried in plain sight. Archaeologists began uncovering strange, dark earth surrounding ancient settlements, soil that looked nothing like the lifeless clay just feet away. They called it Terra Preta de Indio, dark earth of the Indians. Radiocarbon dating revealed something shocking: these black earth patches weren't natural. They were man-made, and ancient. Some dated back 7,000 years. Others were still being created just 500 years before colonization began. And they weren't isolated. This advanced technique had spread across the entire basin, a silent signature of civilization, written in the ground. But who were these people who cracked the code of permanent fertility? And how did their secret vanish in the span of a single generation? The answer lies not in the soil itself, but in what came after. At the heart of Terra Preta's mystery was something ancient people understood, but modern science ignored for centuries. Charcoal. Not the ash you get from a blazing fire, but something far more powerful, biochar, created through low temperature, oxygen-limited burns designed not to destroy, but to transform. This wasn't a byproduct. It was the point. Ancient Amazonians collected charcoal, then mixed it with broken pottery, animal bones, fish remains, and food scraps, turning their waste into something more valuable than gold, eternal soil. And here's the part that defies everything Big AG teaches us. Unlike compost or manure, which break down in months, biochar never decomposes. Its microscopic pores act like luxury apartments for beneficial microbes, sheltering them, multiplying them, feeding the soil from the inside out. Its electrical charge binds nutrients like a magnet, stopping them from washing away in heavy rains. Tests reveal phosphorus levels 20 times higher than the surrounding soil. Nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, all off the charts. And the miracle? Once activated, the process never stops. The microbes move in, they grow, they die, they regenerate, building new organic matter endlessly. These black earth patches didn't just stay fertile, they got stronger over time. Farmers in Brazil still hunt for these patches today. Because even after 2,000 years, they remain the most fertile land in the region. But that raised a terrifying question for the modern agricultural world. If indigenous farmers could build eternal soil from scraps and fire, what do we need fertilizer for? And that was just the beginning. For centuries, the black earth sat quietly under the rainforest, producing food, storing carbon, and defying logic. But no one asked where it came from. European explorers saw it. Settlers walked over it. Scientists noted it in passing. And they all assumed the same thing: it had to be natural. Because the idea that indigenous people colonial powers dismissed as primitive, could have engineered superior soil was simply unthinkable. To admit that meant rewriting the narrative of who held knowledge, power, and progress. So terra preta was misfiled in textbooks as a geological curiosity. Maybe volcanic. Maybe some freak natural process. Anything but intentional. Anything but indigenous genius. And for 400 years, no one questioned it. Until a Dutch soil scientist named Wim Sombroek published a paper in 1966 that shook the scientific world. He didn't just describe the black soil, he dared to say it was man-made. Every patch of terra preta he studied was filled with clues: broken pottery, stone tools, food waste. These weren't volcanic leftovers. They were civilizational fingerprints. And the charcoal? It wasn't wildfire ash. It came from controlled, low-temperature burns designed to make biochar, not to clear land, but to build it. Sombroek called terra preta the black earth of hope. Before his death in 2003, he posed one haunting question to the scientific community. If pre-Columbian people could do it, why can't we? The answer didn't come from big corporations or government labs. It came from a small team at Cornell University, decades later. And what they found would expose just how much had been forgotten, and just how much had been deliberately ignored. It wasn't until the early 2000s that modern science finally caught up to what indigenous farmers had known for millennia. At Cornell University, Dr. Johannes Lehmann cracked the chemistry behind terra preta, and confirmed what Sombroek had always suspected. The key wasn't just charcoal. It was biochar, a form of charcoal made through a process called pyrolysis, where organic material is heated in the absence of oxygen, not burned to ash, but transformed into something altogether different. The result? A carbon matrix with 9,000 square feet of surface area in a single gram. That's nearly 2 basketball courts of microscopic space in something smaller than a sugar cube. And what does that mean for soil? It holds water like a sponge, releasing it slowly to roots during droughts. It binds nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, keeping them from washing away. It shelters billions of beneficial microbes, creating a living ecosystem underground. And it locks carbon in the ground for thousands of years, acting as a natural climate stabilizer. When researchers tested real terra preta samples, they found carbon that had been in the ground for over 2,000 years, still stable, still active, still feeding crops. A way to heal soil, feed billions, and break the cycle of chemical dependence. So why wasn't it on every farm in the world? Because that revolution came with a cost. Not to the farmer, but to someone else. If biochar works so well, if it boosts yields across continents, if it heals dead soil and lasts for centuries, why don't we use it? The answer isn't science. It's money. In 2024, the global fertilizer industry was worth $27 billion. 5 companies, Nutrien, Yara International, Mosaic, CF Industries, and ICL Group, control over half that market. Their business model? Brilliantly simple. Soil loses nutrients with every harvest. Farmers must replace them every year. Enter synthetic fertilizer, fast-acting, expensive, and temporary. The average American farmer spends $200 to $500 per acre, every single year. That's up to $500,000 annually for a 1,000-acre farm. It's not a product. It's a subscription plan with no cancel button. Now compare that to biochar. One application can last for centuries. It reduces nitrogen needs by up to 25%, prevents phosphorus leaching, and improves water retention by as much as 30%. You apply it once, maybe refresh it every few decades. And worst of all, for the industry, you can make it yourself. For free. No patents. No licensing fees. No dependency. Just fire, waste, and knowledge. To the fertilizer giants, this isn't innovation. It's a system failure. A threat to everything they've built. So they made a choice. Not to fight biochar directly. Not to ban it or smear it. They did something smarter, and far more effective. They buried it in silence. The fertilizer industry didn't need a smear campaign. They didn't need to discredit the science. All they had to do was make sure you never heard about it. And they succeeded. Go ahead, ask a typical farmer about biochar, and most won't even know what it is. Not because it doesn't work, but because no one taught them to look. Agricultural extension services, the frontline educators for farmers, are largely funded by fertilizer companies. And guess what they don't include in their field demos? Biochar. Land-grant universities. Many rely on agrochemical grants. Their research priorities follow the money, and that means NPK blends, precision fertilizer tools, and controlled release formulas. Everything except the one solution that doesn't need to be bought again next season. Even farming magazines are stacked with glossy ads for the latest fertilizer products. New blends. New tech. New packaging. But articles on biochar? Almost non-existent. This wasn't a cover-up in the traditional sense. No leaked memos. No public denials. Just bureaucratic invisibility, the kind of silence that kills ideas before they ever reach the field. And it worked. In 2024, the global biochar market was worth just $541 million, less than 0.2% of the fertilizer industry. For a product that could replace fertilizers entirely, that number is laughable. This wasn't about technology. It was about control. Because biochar threatens more than profits. It threatens the very foundation of industrial agriculture. A model built on annual purchases. A system that thrives on soil depletion. An industry that depends on you not knowing you have a choice. But you do. Because the technique that could break that cycle, it isn't locked in a lab. It's waiting, in your backyard. You don't need a lab. You don't need a grant. You don't need permission. Because the secret to eternal soil isn't high-tech, it's fire, patience, and scraps. The same method that fed civilizations for millennia can be done with a shovel and a backyard. Here's how it works. Dig a cone-shaped pit, about 3 feet across, 2 feet deep. Start a small fire at the bottom with dry twigs and kindling. Add larger pieces of wood once the flame catches. When the surface begins to show white ash over black char, add another layer. Keep layering. The cone shape limits oxygen, forcing pyrolysis, not combustion. When the pit's full and glowing, quench it hard. Drown the fire instantly with water. What's left behind is biochar, not ash, but a sponge of carbon filled with microscopic pores. And it's just getting started. Crush it down. Bag it. But don't use it yet. Because raw biochar is hungry. If you put it in your soil fresh, it'll absorb all the nutrients, leaving your plant starving. You have to charge it first. Soak it in compost tea, worm castings, fish emulsion, even diluted urine. Let it sit for 24 to 48 hours, fill it with life. Then, mix it into your garden. Not in mountains, just a handful per hole. A bit beneath your tomatoes. A dusting under your squash. And it will go to work. Forever. For larger operations, 10 tons per hectare transforms even dead fields into living ecosystems. That charcoal will outlive you. It will feed your soil when your grandchildren inherit the land. It will outlast droughts, floods, and market crashes. And here's what terrifies the fertilizer industry. They can't patent it. They can't control it. And they can't stop you from doing it. This isn't just a technique. It's freedom, passed down by people who understood that soil isn't a product. It's a legacy. Deep in the Amazon, the Black Earth still breathes. Even now, centuries after its creators vanished, even after empires collapsed and knowledge was stolen, Terra Preta continues to feed life. Without chemicals. Without machines. Without corporations. Because the soil remembers. It remembers the hands that built it. The fire that forged it. The wisdom buried, not by time, but by greed. This wasn't some primitive fluke. It was a 7,000-year-old technology designed to endure. And it worked, too well. That's why they buried it. Not because it might fail, but because it succeeded without them. Because it made farmers independent. Because it proved the system we were sold is built on dependency, not necessity. But now, you know. You've seen what they silenced. You've heard the story they tried to erase. And the truth is no longer buried. You can dig a pit today. You can feed your soil for generations. You can step outside the loop they've trapped us in, and never look back. Because the Black Earth is real. The science is solid. And the only thing standing between you and freedom is whether or not you choose to act. The soil doesn't forget. And neither should we.